Hi everyone, good day. Welcome again to our class. My name is Sir Cedric, and for today we're going to learn the theory of ethical relativism. So, before setting out to examine the theory of ethical relativism or relativism, we should define it. Although there are different specific types or versions of ethical relativism, we can say that generally it refers to a view or doctrine that ethical values and beliefs as to what is right, good, and wrong or bad are relative to the time, place, persons, situations, and societies that hold them. So it is relative to what particular environment are you in, to what particular culture are you in? In short, ethical relativism is a theory that holds that there are no universally valid moral principles, that all moral values are valid relative to culture or individual choice. Hence, there are no values that cut across cultural boundaries and peoples that are not relative to the specific place or context in which they are held. Morality, therefore, depends on specific social or cultural circumstances like traditions, customs, personal beliefs, and etc. What is then morally right or wrong may vary fundamentally from person to person or culture to culture. Okay? So, relativism does not, however, try to tell us which acts and practices are right and wrong. It only says that no matter how we answer that question, we must acknowledge that an act or conduct may be both right and wrong at the same time. Say right in one culture but wrong in another. Like, for example, if marijuana is illegal in the Philippines, but it is legal in other countries such as the US. So, it is relative. What we hold as for our moral beliefs are relative to different cultures as well as to different places. So let's go now to the arguments of ethical relativism. There are quite a good number of reasons for believing and accepting that what ethical relativism holds is true. In what follows, we will present the most commonly mentioned reasons or arguments, which is one way or the other favor and support the belief in the philosophy of ethical relativism. Number one is the cultural differences argument. So, one of the most often cited reasons to support ethical relativism is the actual existence of moral diversity among cultures. Throughout history, many societies have held beliefs and practices about morality that are strikingly different from our own. Like, for instance, the culture of sex before marriage. In the Philippines, it is considered to be quite morally not right. But in other places wherein it is quite liberal to do such practice. So for centuries, people have pointed out those different societies or cultures at least appear to have vastly different moral codes. Indeed, it is uncontroversially true that people in different societies have different customs and different ideas about right or good and wrong or bad. There is no universal or transcultural consensus of which actions are actually right and wrong, even though there is a considerable overlapping with regards to this. I hope that is clear, and let's proceed to the second argument, the argument from respect. As we have just noted above, or what we have discussed, ethical relativism rooted in cultural multiplicity or cultural multiplicity seem to be very appealing to a good number of people, especially among the youth of today. So there's a lot of cultures, and so they hold different moral beliefs. Part of this is the powerful growing power is due to the fact that such view has been thought to promote tolerance. Accordingly, if moral codes differ from culture and there is no objective or culturally dependent basis by which to judge the moral code of any culture, then the moral code of one's particular culture has no special status compared with the rest. Moreover, we can say that no culture has the absolute right to impose its own ethical views and practices on anyone else, least of all on people in different cultures and traditions. The appropriate attitude to take is therefore one of respect and tolerance for moral standpoints different from what one upholds. So, tolerance has always been considered as a virtue, while taking a superior stance is usually viewed as the height of arrogance, if not plain narrow mindedness, especially so in this postmodern world of ours, which has been seeing the fall of many absolutes in the course of humanity's long history. So, through ethical relativism, it is believed that people would become more accepting of moralities of others, no matter how this may be radically different from their own. People have to see and realize that the other side of the fence is not necessarily wrong. They have to stop this we're right and we're wrong attitude and beliefs and rather view that others are as simply different. So, magkaiba lang talaga yung mga pinaniniwalaan natin, just like in religion. Like, eating of pork is not good or it is morally wrong in a Muslim religion. But for other religion, it is quite alright. Number three argument is the psychological argument. Okay, so this argument undermines the confidence in the objectivity of ethics by making us aware of the non rational ways in which moral ideas and beliefs are formed and developed in the individual. So, among psychologists, there is considerable agreement about how this happens. The picture remains remarkably constant even when we consider radically different psychological theories. So we have a lot of theories like behaviorism by B.F. Skinner, the classical conditioning of Ivan Pavlov, and operant conditioning, and so on and so forth. So all of this suggests a certain conclusion that our values are simply the result of our having been conditioned to behave in a certain way. We may feel that certain actions are good and others are bad or evil, but that is merely because we all have been trained and conditioned to have those feelings, beginnings, when we still little children, nung bata pa tayo. We are nurtured to have those beliefs, usually through parental rearing and social influence. So it's like if we are trained and brought up by our parents or elders differently, most certainly we would have different moral values and principles. Okay? So, in other words, all of us human beings acquire our moral beliefs by the process of psychological conditioning. The psychological argument is without doubt impressive. All of us, consciously or unconsciously, have been subjected in one way or to the other some sort of psychic manipulation by our significant others like our parents, our guardians, our friends. Hence, the argument, if it's sound, provides a valid evidence that some kind of ethical relativism is true. Okay? The next argument is the conformity argument. Some people accept ethical relativism because they somehow think that people should conform with and embrace the ethical code of their respective societies or cultures. This is according to Barcalow. I'm sorry. In fact, some even went as far as believing that it is their duty to do it so. As social beings by nature, it is but natural for people to easily affiliate and conform to the accepted ethical standards of the particular group that they belong. It is through cultural relativism that it is thought that people would come to be more accepting of their own social norms or of their own societal norms or rules. Their belief gives a good basis for a common morality within a culture. In fact, a kind of a democratic basis where diverse ideas and principles are pulled in, thus ensuring that the norms and rules that a certain society would eventually accept have a wide and solid support. This will then provide the central validity or justification of the morality of the group, whatever it may be. Number five is the probability argument. Finally, another reason to believe that what ethical relativism holds is indeed true. It is undeniable fact of moral dispute occurring between and among groups as well as for individuals. So the usual practice of people having a great difficulty in knowing what is morally right thing to do in a particular situation has led to a general attitude of skepticism on the possibility of determining, much worse, establishing a universal and definite moral standard. So the main point of this argument or of this contention in this line of argument is that if there is such thing as objective or universal truth in ethics, we should be able to prove that moral opinions are true and others are false absolutely. But in fact, we cannot prove which moral opinions are absolutely true and which are absolutely false. Therefore, there is no such thing as objective truth in ethics. I hope you've learned something for today and thank you so much for listening. See you soon.